I'm Tyler James, and I've always been drawn to the supernatural and unknown. So when my friends, Emily, Mike, and Sarah, suggested exploring the old antique shop on the outskirts of town, I couldn't resist. The store was rumored to have a mysterious past, and we hoped to uncover some of its secrets. We had heard whispers of strange occurrences and unexplained phenomena surrounding the shop, but we didn't believe them. We were skeptics, always looking for a logical explanation.
As we entered the dusty shop, the owner, Mr. Jenkins, greeted us with a knowing smile. "Welcome, young adventurers. I have just the thing for you." He led us to a hidden room in the back, filled with strange and eerie artifacts. There were old books bound in a black leather, strange devices that looked like they belonged in a medieval torture chamber, and taxidermied animals with glassy eyes that seemed to watch us. That's when I saw it. An antique mirror with an ornate gold frame, adorned with symbols that seemed to whisper secrets. "This mirror has a complicated history," Mr. Jenkins warned. "Some say it shows the viewer their deepest fears, while others claim it reveals the darkness within. But be careful, it's said to be cursed." He spoke in a hushed tone, as if he didn't want to disturb the mirror's slumber. I couldn't resist the temptation. I purchased the mirror, despite my friend's reservations. As we left the shop, I felt an unsettling sensation, like the mirror was watching us. We joked about it, but deep down, we knew something was off. That night, I hung the mirror in my apartment, and we gathered around, eager to test its powers. At first, it seemed like a normal mirror, reflecting our images with perfect clarity. We made funny faces, posed, and took selfies in front of it. But as we stared deeper, our reflections began to change. Emily's eyes turned black as coal, Mike's face contorted into a twisted grin, and Sarah's skin appeared deathly pale. And then, I saw my own reflection. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its mouth twisted into a malevolent sneer. I tried to turn away, but my reflection held my gaze, its eyes burning with an evil intensity. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that my reflection was not mimicking my movements. It was watching me, waiting for something to happen. Suddenly, the mirror went dark, and we were left standing in silence, wondering what we had unleashed. We tried to brush it off as a trick of the light, but we knew better. Something was amiss, and we had disturbed it. As we left my apartment, I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. I glanced back at the mirror, and for a moment, I swore I saw a figure standing behind us, its eyes glowing in the dark. Days passed, and we tried to put the experience behind us. But strange things began to happen. Emily would find strange symbols etched into her mirror, and Mike would see shadowy figures lurking in the corners of his room. Sarah started having vivid nightmares, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone was watching me. At first, we thought it was just our imagination. But as the occurrences grew more frequent and intense, we knew we had to do something. We started researching the mirror's history, trying to uncover its secrets. We scoured the internet, consulted with local historians, and even visited the local library's occult section. That's when we stumbled upon an ancient text that mentioned the mirror's dark past. It was said to have been created by a mysterious cult who imbued it with the power to reveal the viewer's deepest fears and desires. But the cult's true intention was to use the mirror as a portal to summon an otherworldly entity, a being known only as the Devourer. We laughed it off as mere superstition, but deep down, we knew we had disturbed something sinister. One night, we gathered at my apartment, determined to confront the mirror once and for all. But as we approached it, we noticed something was different. The symbols etched into the frame seemed to be pulsing with a faint, eerie glow. And then the mirror started to rattle, the glass vibrating with an otherworldly energy. We stepped back, frozen in terror as the mirror's surface began to distort and ripple like water on a hot summer day. A figure started to take shape, its presence filling the room with an unspeakable horror. We tried to run, but our feet felt heavy, as if rooted to the spot. The figure solidified, its eyes burning with an infernal intensity. We knew then that we had unleashed a malevolent force, and it was coming for us. The figure in the mirror began to take shape, its features becoming more defined with each passing moment. Its eyes burned with an intense, otherworldly light, and its presence seemed to fill the room with an unspeakable horror. We tried to scream, but our voices were frozen in our throats. We were paralyzed with fear, unable to move or look away. As the figure solidified, we saw that it was a reflection of ourselves, but twisted and distorted in ways that defied human anatomy. Its skin was deathly pale, and its mouth was stretched into a grotesque, inhuman grin. The symbols etched into the mirror's frame seemed to be pulsing with an eerie energy, as if they were alive and feeding off our terror. The figure began to move, its movements slow and deliberate. It raised a hand, and we saw that it was holding a small, ornate box. The box was adorned with the same symbols that were etched into the mirror's frame, and it seemed to be emitting a faint, pulsating glow. As we watched in horror, the figure opened the box, revealing a dark, swirling vortex inside. The vortex seemed to be pulling us in, drawing us closer to the mirror with an otherworldly force. We tried to resist, but our bodies seemed to be moving of their own accord, drawn to the mirror like moths to a flame. Suddenly the figure spoke, its voice like a cold wind that sent shivers down our spines. "You should not have looked," it hissed. "Now you will see the truth." As the figure spoke, the mirror's surface began to ripple and distort like water on a hot summer day. Images began to appear, flickering and shifting like a madman's dream. We saw visions of our deepest fears, our darkest secrets, and our most primal desires. We saw the worst of ourselves, reflected back at us in all its horror. And then, the mirror showed us something more. A figure standing just behind us, a figure that we couldn't see but could feel. A presence that seemed to be watching us, waiting for us to turn around. We tried to turn, but our bodies were frozen in place. We were trapped, unable to move or look away. The figure in the mirror began to laugh, its voice like a cold, mirthless chuckle. "You should not have looked," it repeated. "Now you will never look away." As the mirror's surface continued to ripple and distort, we realized that we were staring into the abyss, and the abyss was staring back at us. We were trapped in a living nightmare, with no escape from the horrors that lurked within. As the mirror's surface continued to ripple and distort, we felt ourselves being pulled closer, drawn into the abyss like moths to a flame. The figure behind us seemed to be getting closer, its presence suffocating, crushing us beneath its weight. Suddenly, the mirror exploded in a shower of glass and silvered shards. We stumbled back, blinded by the light, as the figure behind us let out a deafening roar. We turned to face it, but there was no one there. The room was empty, except for the shattered remains of the mirror. But as we looked down at the broken glass, we saw something that made our blood run cold. Our reflections, trapped in the shards, staring back at us with eyes that burned with an otherworldly intensity. The symbols etched into the mirror's frame seemed to be pulsing with an eerie energy, as if they were alive and feeding off our terror. We knew then that we had to get out, to escape the apartment, and never look back. We stumbled towards the door, but as we reached for the handle, we heard a voice that seemed to come from all around us, echoing off the walls. "You should not have looked," it hissed. Now you will always see." As we turned to face the voice, the lights flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. We were trapped, alone and frightened, with only our reflections for company. And then, the darkness began to move, to twist and writhe like a living thing. We knew then that we had to get out, to escape the apartment, and never look back. We stumbled towards the door, feeling our way through the darkness until we finally emerged into the bright sunlight. As we looked back at the apartment, we saw something that made our blood run cold. The mirror reassembled, its surface smooth and unbroken, and in its reflection, our own faces, staring back at us with eyes that burned with an otherworldly intensity. We knew then that we would never be free, that the mirror would always be watching, waiting for us to look again. And as we turned and ran, we knew that we would always be haunted by the horrors that lurked within.